Welcome back to the show. You've just joined us. We're on the topic of increasing the number of opposition voices in Parliament and how this will affect debate, policies and decision-making. Now, Sylvia, you have been an NCMP for a while and you've participated in the cut and thrust of debate. What impact do you think you have had?
Well, I don't think I'm the best judge of that.
Or at least what has your experience been?
I feel that it has been meaningful in the sense that at least there is a platform for us also to raise some of the people's concerns. Anyone who is interested can actually take a look at Hansard to see some of the matters that we have raised. And to be fair, I think that the PAP ministers have done some part in answering some of the questions that we have filed. So, you know, in that sense, I mean, it is, I think, a meaningful contribution, although, as I said earlier, I think that there are some limitations to being an NCMP compared to an elected MP.
Indranee, how do you think their presence has raised debate, if at all, or changed the way PAP MPs speak in the House or raise policies in the House?
I think certainly having NCMPs as well as the NMPs has added to the debate. Having said that, anybody who watches the parliamentary debates will know that even the PAP MPs don't speak with one voice. There's certain things where, you know, there's common ground, but there are many different ideas. For the NCMPs and the NMPs, they have, you know, specific areas, specific views, which sometimes are different, and sometimes, I may add, are the same, or at least they have a common view. So it's just added to the diversity, and I think has made Parliament a richer place.
Sylvia, just before the break, Indranee was talking about PAP going into every election knowing that they might lose. I mean, if I can...
There's always a possibility.
And I could see on your face that you didn't agree with it. Can you...
I think I kind of had a bit of a reaction to what was said, because I feel that if the ruling party with all its might wants their candidates to go through a political contest and is serious about it, then they really need to look at their might versus the might of the other political parties at the moment, or even independent candidates for that matter. So you see, like now the Prime Minister is saying that the size of GRCs, he sees the drawback of the large 6-member GRCs because it actually leads to MPs losing some touch with the voters, which is a very important point. So if that is the case, then how do you still continue to justify having any 6-member GRC for that matter? I mean, he was saying in his speech that, oh, there are some areas where the configuration is such that it still makes sense to have that. It is still not clear to me why the GRCs need to be of that size. And, you know, it has been said by SM Goh Chok Tong in previous parliamentary debates as well on this topic that actually there is nothing stopping the MPs from getting together after the GE to form town councils for economies of scale. So really you don't need to run elections in such huge blocks.
As I understand it, the Workers' Party is still against the GRC system per se. But is it realistic, do you think, then, not to have GRCs at all and only have single-member constituencies and expect minorities to be represented? Well,
we have looked at the track record of Singapore's elections, and in fact I just had a look at it just before I came here to remind myself that I wasn't mistaken. You know, in 1984, which was the last GE before GRCs were introduced, we saw quite a number of minority candidates standing against Chinese candidates and winning on their own. So if you're telling me now, with a more educated population, that, you know, Singaporeans cannot be trusted not to vote along racial lines and all that, I feel that's too pessimistic a view to take.
Indranee, your view on this?
I take a slightly different view, which is this. The difference between the view that Sylvia has put forward and the view that supports the GRC system is that under the proposition advanced by Sylvia, you may well have minority candidates who are returned. You may well have, but given the track record. Under the GRC system, you are guaranteed. You're guaranteed that you will have, which means that the minorities are protected, and the minorities will know whichever way they vote, there will always be a certain number of minorities in. And this is actually very important because it gives a psychological reassurance. And you see it, you know, for example, when it comes to, like, we get feedback on jobs. Sometimes some minorities will tell me they feel that they didn't get a job because of their race. And it may or may not be true. You don't know. They may not have got the job because of merit, but they felt it was because of race. And psychologically, there's that insecurity. Whereas if you have a political system that guarantees it to you, it gives you a lot more comfort and you take off some of the stresses and strains in the system.
You want to jump in there?
No, I just wonder whether that psychologically makes minorities stronger or weaker. I mean, you know, what is the end result really? And I mean, and going further, let's say if we really find evidence that Singaporeans really vote along racial lines and there is a risk that minorities may not be represented in parliament. I mean, there are other systems in other countries that can be looked at which don't involve GRCs. For example, there are certain countries where they'll tell you, okay, for every X number of candidates you field, you need to field a certain number of minorities and so on. So there are other ways to do it, you see.
But it doesn't have to be another way, you see. That's the point.
Because they're saying that
we're evolving something things.
I mean, the racial representation apart in GRCs, right? GRCs have also created a problem, which is the MPs, especially of course the PAP MPs, are going in there and getting voted without even an election. I mean, in your case,
no, actually, that really
Tanjung
depends
Pagar,
on
for example.
Yes, but the fact that we weren't contested wasn't because of us, it's because no opposition came to contest us.
But that is
You're right,
that is a point, because, I mean, if the intention really is to have more opposition members in parliament, then there must be a way to look at, I mean, to consider the racial element as well as better representation, isn't it?
I've thought about that.
It has had an unintended effect, isn't it?
I've thought about that, because another way you could do it, for example, is say, okay, you have SMCs, but this particular SMC will only be minority candidates. You can do that. But the residents there might feel, why am I restricted to a minority candidate? In a GRC, for example, they have a choice. They can go to the Chinese one, they can go to the minority candidate. And then sometimes, in my own MPS, when a resident comes to see me, sometimes it's because I'm Indian. Sometimes it's because it's a female resident and I'm female. That has nothing to do with race, but it's a gender thing, it's a question of identification. So there are many ways you can do it, but this appears to be a system that's best suited for us.
Overall, are you happy that there is a chance now for more opposition voices to be heard? Or do you think that there are drawbacks to that which you are still not happy with?
I'm actually happier with the increase in the number of SMCs and the intended introduction in GRCs. I'm happier about that. I think that lowers the entry barrier somewhat, and hopefully if it results in more contests at the next election, I think Singaporeans would be therefore correspondingly more involved, and I think based on what we see from previous polls, there will be a greater interest in national issues if they had a chance to vote. So I think overall, if it has that effect, it's good for Singapore.
Yeah, the competition's good.
Okay, thank you both very much for joining us. That's all the time we have for tonight. Singaporeans have to decide at the next polls if they merely want more opposition voices in Parliament to raise the level of debate, or whether they think the opposition can play a bigger role in governing the country.
Let us know your views. Email us at talkingpoint@channelnewsasia.com. Join us again next Sunday, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you.